Hello, this is Wolfgang Krosky, CEO of the Pittsburgh Chamber of Commerce, and this is a continuation of our candidate series where we are interviewing candidates for different races that impact the community of Pittsburgh. Today, we're doing something a little bit different that we've not done before, but we actually have a candidate that is running in the Mount Diablo School District in their race, and the reason why is that a growing portion of Pittsburgh is actually in the Mount Diablo School District. You have the neighborhoods of Oak Hills, San Marco, Alves Ranch. Those communities are serviced by the Mount Diablo School District. So we felt that it would be in the best interest of all of our residents to interview candidates in that race. So with us today, we have AJ Fardella, who is running for Area 1. And if you would like to watch a recording of this interview or any of the interviews that we have, you can go to www.pittsburgh.vote. There you can watch the interviews, you can get the contact information, links to the candidates' website, Facebook, or other areas, and also read their bios. So, with that, AJ, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for Area 1 Mount Diablo Unified School District Board.
Thank you, Wolfie. And first of all, I want to thank you for all you're doing this election cycle. I think it's great for the people of Pittsburgh to be able to have this one-on-one with people. Um, my name is AJ Fardella. I'm a San Francisco native who moved here in 1999. I had a growing family, and we bought a house in Oak Hills. There was supposed to be a school near our house, and that school did not materialize. So I gathered all the neighbors with pitchforks, and we got Delta View built, and all of my kids went there. I got involved in the Mount Diablo Unified School District politics, became a member of their oversight committee for the bond, and served on that committee for 7 years. I am also a past planning commissioner for the city of Pittsburgh for 9 years. Um, Except for Garcia, I think I'm one of the longest tenured commissioners. Um, and one of the big reasons that I entered into this race is because when I was involved with the district, we purchased an 11-acre site in the Alves property. You might have noticed it, but you might have just missed it because it's hidden by a row of houses on Leland. Anyway, this was supposed to have been a K through 8 school, was supposed to have been started building a long time ago. Schools are just terribly overcrowded, 37, 38 kids to a classroom at Riverview, according to grievances that were filed with the Mount Diablo Educational Association, which is a teachers union. And so we're overdue to build that school. There hasn't been adequate planning for schools in the Concord Naval Weapons Station. And this is the first year we're doing elections by district. And those are the big issues facing people in our area. We have a huge lack of what the district itself calls educational equity. And we haven't had any from the district on this side of the hill for even before I got here, for upward to 30 years. More than a third of our residents have to drive over 10 miles to bring their children to school and back every day. And it works out to about one work month a year. And so if I get elected, I'll be sure that we build that K through 8 and that we do better planning for infrastructure like a high school in our area as well.
So you talk about, your own kids and the needs that they have, but having a race that's now broken up by area, which is different than Pittsburgh Unified, which is just at large, everybody covers the whole district. How do you see the current situation for students in Area 1? What are their needs, and how would you address those needs, focusing specifically on the students at this moment?
Well, Wolf, that's a great question. And I'd like to say that we'd be tuning up curriculum and cool stuff like that. But right now, my concern is the overriding educational inequity in Area 1 compared to all the other areas in the district. And that's one of the reasons I'm glad we're having an election by areas, because this gives us an opportunity to get someone in there that really cares about what we need. I mean, they took a high school away from this area in the 70s. And I mean, it's just abominable. When we were done with Delta View Elementary School, which we had built, we had to drive our kids to Pleasant Hill and, and what, almost to Walnut Creek in Concord. I mean, it's outrageous. And this is The number one goal of the district, according to their superintendent at the initial meeting this year, was educational equity. And if that's their number one goal, then they failed miserably, especially when it comes to people from our area.
So it's to sum it up, it's basically that for Area 1, you see that the needs of the students is that just access to education, because right now 10 plus miles, I would assume that during traffic time that equates to 30, 40 minutes, if not more. I don't know how long is it.
It's a horrible tax, and especially for folks that are disadvantaged, the time that it takes out of every day, the money, especially now for fuel, the wear and tear on the car. But these poor kids have a huge portion every day taken out of their lives. Over an hour, probably every day, in a round trip, because it does happen during commute hours. It's horrible. And so, what we really need in Area 1 is a new school built right away. I mean, goodness, 38 kids at Riverview. Thank God we have teachers there. We're fortunate enough to have been there 30 years, very dedicated to their job there. And for such a disadvantaged school, it's no wonder, because I don't know of any other teacher that would put up with 38 kids in a classroom. It's crazy. And you know for sure that that would never happen in Pleasant Hill.
So, as a follow up question of that, because that item is somewhat unique to your race compared to Pittsburgh, bringing up building of schools experience that you have that can help with that, or why do you feel that you're the right person for this need of addressing a physical building that needs to be built?
Well, it's definitely a matter of finishing something that I started. I had a great deal of hope when one of the people I'm running against, Deborah Mason, was elected to the school board before we had district elections, because she is from the Bay Point area. And I thought, that's great. She'll get in there and she'll get this school built. And it hasn't happened. So I'm very much finishing up something that I started years ago when Dick Nickel was the assistant superintendent. We bought that piece of property, and it's still unfathomable to me that construction hasn't started. And the district has deliberately avoided giving us our own infrastructure. What we deserve is what every other area in the district has, and that's neighborhood schools.
So, sounds like the needs of the students are going to be somewhat similar to the needs of the parents with just this transportation and the time that it takes. But working with parents in your area and knocking doors or however you're communicating, what are you hearing? Is there anything in addition to that that parents have needs, or is that pretty much the main talking point that you're hearing from parents?
That's a great question, and there is an answer to that, and that is two words: high school. The people that are on my Facebook site, which is the same as my website, electfardella.com, um, and it's sad news I have for them, because I'll promise to build that school because I know what it takes. We've already got a design ready. It's already an approved state design. So it's an administrative and a financial challenge, but it's one that I can meet. I've built a school before, so I have what it takes to get that done. But the honest answer to people about that concern, the secondary concern, is a high school. And that's going to be 5, maybe 10 years before construction even starts. We don't even have a site at this point. And it's going to take a lot of political pressure to get the land reserved in the Concord Naval Weapons Station, not just for a high school that serves us as well as them, but for the elementary and middle education schools that need to go into the weapons station. None of the so-called permanent plans I've seen don't even address it. And that's another place I think the district has failed in their communication with the city of Concord for the Concord Naval Weapons Station educational needs, and they haven't had communication with the city of Pittsburgh in over a decade, even though the city has reached out several times, frankly, at my request.
So, representing Area 1, but you're still part of a school board that has, multiple people on it, and they each have their different areas. Globally, what are some of the challenges that are facing Mount Diablo Unified, and how will you work to address those if elected?
I think that there's a lot of challenges the district has. One of them, which has brought the district to court many times and had them under a consent decree. For those of you that don't know, a consent decree is when someone brings you to court and the court says, you're really horrible, you have to do this, and then makes a list of what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Well, the district was under a consent decree like that because of their horrible performance in the area of special education. And for someone who has had children who have special needs, I have an autistic child, very autistic. I saw the difference in between when that consent decree was in place and as soon as the consent decree ended, the services to my child became absolutely intolerable. So certainly that's an area that I want to concentrate that affects the entire district. And I do realize I'm not just a board member, even though I'm elected for Area 1. I have to be a board member for everybody in the district. And education is something I care about dearly. My father was a teacher at Skyline High School, a football coach, and I understand the challenges that teachers have. I also feel that we've got to get teachers more money to improve the quality of education for our kids. When I went to school in California, we were number one in the nation in education. And because we don't spend the money we used to compared to the money we make, we've gone downhill in the state. And the fact is we need to dig deeper and take care of our children because they are our most valuable resource.
So you mentioned the state and their funding. That's been a common item that multiple candidates have talked about, that the expense of providing education is increasing, but the portion of funding that the state is giving is not keeping up with that. If elected, how will you work to bring change at the state level that can then benefit all schools?
I think that's a great question. And I think that the biggest part of improving education in the state isn't the stopgap, which a lot of wealthy communities do. They impose a parcel tax on themselves or they bond themselves into oblivion. I think that we absolutely need to have a change of the entire electorate of the state and seriously not be so stingy with our children. It's really horrible the lack of involvement that parents have and the lack of funding that parents are willing to give to their own public schools that serve their own children. So I do believe that there needs to be a political revolution in the state of California, and hopefully this bounty that we've had, and I know that a lot of the money wasn't refunded but was given to school districts. I know that Mount Diablo received, I believe, $30 million in additional funding, which allowed them to carry on without as much pain as they thought they were going to have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel it's definitely going to take some work in terms of short term solutions for getting things built at the district level. Until I get elected, I'm not going to be able to look under the skirt to know how bad things are. But, you know, I'm not going to take no for an answer. Area 1 deserves that K through 8 school, and the whole area of Area 1 deserves a new high school soon.
Yeah. You mentioned having a child with special needs and that experience. So, what is your view on special education? I know that a lot of districts struggle with meeting the demands that are placed both by parents and the legal system on districts to service students with special needs. So, what's your philosophy on special education?
Well, you know, you never really think about it until you have a special child of your own. And I had three children before I had Nikki, before Lisa and I had Nikki. And he's been very fortunate, still living with us at 23. And, you know, it's important for us to take care of each other. And in many ways, it's a measure of the humanity of any society, how you take care of your afflicted. And I feel that we have to do everything in our power to offer an equal educational opportunity to everyone, no matter what their color is, no matter what their background or income is, or what their challenges are in facing life, disabilities, and things of this nature. The cost is what becomes the problem. And again, I feel that because these mandates come essentially from Title 19 at the federal level, that the lion's share of the additional burden should probably come from the big collective. Um, and when I say the big collective, I mean federal funds should be a big part of special education. But it's all going to come out of our pocket one way or the other, either from Peter or from Paul. But I do think it's a very important aspect of education in general. And I think that so called regular students get a better education and are better people if they have personal interaction with challenged individuals, so they learn to be more compassionate.
When I was researching you, I saw that you did, I believe it's Challenger baseball or Challenge baseball or
Challenger Little League.
Challenger Lily. Can you explain what that is and
Sure.
why you did it?
When Nicky was about 5 years old, we sought some kind of activity that he can get involved in, and regular school sports, weren't possible for a lot of reasons. And Challenger Baseball allows children of all different kinds of uh, physical, mental, behavioral challenges to come out on a Sunday and play a little baseball. And I was the organizer and director of Challenger Baseball here in Pittsburgh for 6 years. And we even had a real cool exchange program with the city of Guaymas in Mexico. We went down there and donated a lot of sports equipment and played baseball with their kids, their special kids. And then they came up here, and we had a jamboree at City Park. And I'll tell you an interesting story, and it relates to what I can get done politically. When the Challenger kids were coming up from Guaymas, they drove all the way to Nogales in a tour bus, but unfortunately, the guy from the education department did not get the proper visas. So nobody had, some people had passports, but nobody had visas to get into the United States. And this is a bus of about 39 people, challenged kids and their guardians and supervisorial staff. So I was with a problem, a quandary. How do I get these kids through the portal at Nogales and to Pittsburgh and back with no passports? And you've got 24 hours to get it done. Go. So I began first with the mayor of Pittsburgh, then with George Miller, who was our congressman. I had a friend with the Secret Service who gave me a name of a friend of his in the State Department, and they had another friend in the State Department. And that guy in the State Department knew exactly what I needed to do, and there was only one way to get it done. Make a long story short, you have to appeal to the director of the Border Patrol at that particular portal, and they can do what's called a compassionate visa. So we lobbied him, and George Miller lobbied him to the point where he issued 35 of the 39 visas for them to come and play baseball with us. So when faced with so-called insurmountable problems, I find a way to get things done. I always have, and I'll definitely do that if I get elected to the district as a board member.
Awesome. So you've shared some of your experience and your history, and I'm sure there's a lot more. How can people find out more about you? Where can they go? How do they get in touch with you if they have questions that they would like to ask you?
Yeah, the easiest way to get a hold of me is to go to electfardella.com, or if you're on Facebook, just look up Elect Fardella. That's the word elect and FAR, D as in David, E as in Edward, double LA. And you can look me up on Google. I mean, I've had a lot of adventures and a lot of cool stuff that's ended up on the internet. I was on the Larry King show being interviewed about international criminal case. I got the first person arrested for international cyber stalking from a Pittsburgh resident. Well, she was a New York resident. Now she married someone here in Pittsburgh, but Leandra Ram, our own, the one and only talented Leandra Ram. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff out there about me. The main thing I want to communicate to anybody that is wondering who to vote for Area 1 Mount Diablo Unified School District board member is I'm the one that's going to get the school built. I promise you that.
So with that, I definitely want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank you, AJ, for making time in
Thanks
your
very much,
schedule.
Wolf.
Again, if you'd like to watch this interview again or any of our other candidate interviews, you can go to pittsburgh.vote. There you can watch the interviews. They are hosted on YouTube. You can then get links to the candidates' websites, their Facebook, read the bios that they provided us, and just all in all become a more informed voter. So with that, we'll go ahead and conclude. AJ will give you the last remarks, and then we will conclude this interview.
I'm in this race because I believe that we have a problem with equitable education in our area. in Area 1 of the Mount Diablo Unified School District. It's an issue that has become overdue to be addressed by the district. Unfortunately, the incumbent, who's had 8 years to make a move on building a school, has done nothing to get that accomplished. It will be the very first thing on my agenda is to build the K through 8 on Al's property, and then work to get a high school that serves our area and the Naval Weapons Station, as well as do the right planning for the Naval Weapons Station and make sure they have this educational infrastructure they need instead of struggling for it decades later like we are now. Thank you very much, and thank you, Wolf.